go into HTML syntax, CSS syntax, get into some practice, and I'll link some resources in the end. And if we do have time, then I can answer a few questions. I think web development is like, very obvious. You just code websites, right? But what is it? So basically, the thing I'm going to cover today is like front end development. It's basically the stuff like we see, the outer part, like the whole look of the website where the user interacts directly with it. Backend, if you may have heard, is like more of the server stuff, like storing data. You might think of like Java or Python or something like that. So I'm not going to get too much into it. But basically, the front end languages we'll cover today it will be HTML and CSS. JavaScript is also something considered, but we don't have enough time to get through that today. But just to simplify it, HTML is basically like the frame, like the skeleton of like the website. It's called hypertext markup language because you like display the words and you like organize and structure it through code. Meanwhile, CSS is cascading style sheets. Personally, I think it's elegant. It's basically the whole design and personally fun part of web development. There can be lots of ways to incorporate style sheets onto HTML with styling rules, and then if you were curious in JavaScript, it's pretty much the whole dynamic stuff to make things interactive, like animating images or something cool. So why web development? Well, it's a really good skill to like have on hand. Hence, I would say it's like universal. And it's something you can probably like put on your resume as well. It doesn't hurt to learn it. I'm pretty sure everyone can like learn it. And one of the great things about it is that it encompasses creativity and problem solving. I feel like it's kind of like fast paced, as in like evolving, which leads to like kind of like high demand for it because some people are actually looking for people to like make and maintain websites for their businesses. And there's also a small chance of like career with like pay and flexibility, and I definitely vouch for it if you're into like graphic design, like design sort of stuff. Personally, I like it, but I wouldn't just suggest relying on all of this because you should also pick up lots of other languages that could be related, like Java, Python, React, etc., etc., to stand out a little more in this field, just in case if you want to go into it. And like I like how you can have so much control and it's so much endless possibilities, just simply making a website like on Wix or something. And like having a little bit of knowledge can help you if you actually do decide to code on like if you decide to like create on like WordPress or something like that. But anyway, let's start. So we're going to need Replit for this, but I will drop the link into the chat if you need to log in or anything. Okay, I don't want to take too long, so I will keep moving on. It's okay if you're still pulling it up. We're going to get into HTML syntax. So actually, it's not pretty hard in my opinion. This is the language that uses tags. So what is with the less than or greater than operators? There's like an opening tag here and it has a closing tag here. And then this is where you like type in whatever text you need into here. So you can also just call it start or end tag. It doesn't really matter. I guess what do you notice? Well, we know that not only like the text is like always like enclosed in it, like you don't even need to use quotes at all. The closing tag is differentiated by using like a slash right there. So another thing to note is that this can come with like attributes. They're usually like optional. It depends on the tag element, but it provides additional information about the element. So for example, in this example, we can see that it assigns a specific element to a class, which is something that I can't go over today, but keep in mind for later. This is what we mean by tags. So here's a larger image, opening tag, content, and a closing tag. And then here's the one with an attribute in it as well. So now that you know about tags, let's take a look at the HTML file that when you open it up. I think it might be interesting to take a closer look at what this means. So remember that .html defines the file we're working with, like how in Python is probably like .py. This is the same case with lots of other languages. That's so this like first line of doc type HTML. This defines the file. This is just information about the document type, which is HTML5. It's just like you always start off this, and this is not an element. This is actually a declaration. So which is why there is no closing tag. You just don't need one. Next we have the HTML tag. It declares the page to be written in HTML, which also has a closing tag all the way at the bottom, which it's not here, but it's at the bottom. And then, okay, not this part, but the head tag. It's just like a container for the metadata, which means it's like data about data. And then inside of it, there's a meta tag, which contains the meta info. So for example, we have the char set attribute whatever, and it's just character encoding for the browser. And then next we have the title tab, which is like the tab name in the browser. Like whenever you open up a new tab or something, I guess you can always change this, but I mean that's good to know. The body tag is the main page of what will be shown on the website. So now that we have lots of elements in HTML, you're not required to memorize all of them. Google is always a free resource, but just remember a few handy ones because there's like hundreds of them. So first we have headers. So they're all from like 1 to 6, but as you can see, they're different because decrease in size. So H1 is the largest header and H6 is the smallest header. So feel free to like try that out if you want on your own. I will get to that later. Next we have paragraph text, which is enclosed with a P. Well, why can't you just type it into like the code, I guess, because that you can actually do that. Like whenever you open up Replit, it says hello world, but it's not in the P tags. They're gonna be something you use and you want to be able to apply them to CSS later. And also for accessibility, for screeners, creators, to know when to like jump to paragraphs. If not, you'd have an empty body element. So you're definitely gonna be using this. And then you can definitely make lists, but like, what do I mean by that? Well, think about like a to-do list. That's one thing. So what's with UO and OO? So what do they stand for? So these are list elements. So UO is for unordered list and O is for ordered. Ordered meaning like think about like numbers, I guess. So it would be like 1, 2, 3. And then unordered is just like bullet points. So you actually can't type into them yet because you're going to need li. I'm not going to say AI, but yes. This is what I was talking about. So H1, and the nice thing about Replit is like it like puts the closing tags after, so you don't about that much. But you should like never forget the closing tag if an element has one. This is a header. So I'm gonna try to put these all out so you can see the difference. But yeah, they do decrease by size, and it's really nice to like have a variety of options. Used for paragraph text, this is paragraph text. I don't know, P tag. And then we can make lists as well. So if I want to make an unordered list, I put an li tag for something, let's say. So there's thing. And I can also do that for ordered lists. So li, hello. So when I run my code, it's just gonna pop up like this. How big H1 is, you might want to keep in mind. Some of these are like pretty much obvious, like button, it creates a button, text area, you just input text area in here, but the code element is, to make like text look like code, and then EM is actually for italicize, and strong is bold. So actually you can actually nest, so I'm gonna make this bold. I do strong, it has a closing tag, and then I would just do this. And then here you can see the P tag, and then it's been made bold with the strong element EM. I don't know why it's called EM, but so now that you know this, wait, there's more. Yes, why do you think hyperlinks exist and switching between pages is a website, and what website does not have any visuals? So these are a little special, as you can notice right here right away. So let's start with links. Well, this is actually like an element, like with like a closing tag, so like that's good. But we actually have an attribute here. First, we have the start tag, starts with A, and then href attribute. This is basically where you put the URL. So you set it equal, quote, URL here, and then cherielle, what's in between like the tags, it's just the anchor text will actually like show up, and then the end tag. So yeah, that's pretty much, if you want to like make like a nav bar or something, you probably need to like use hyperlinks at some point. Okay, so what about images then? It's not. So it starts off with image, which is like a container. I shouldn't be saying container because there's actually such thing as like containers in HTML, which we can't cover, but we can look into it later. So it's just like a holding space. So src is just like the image path. We can set it equal to a frame that we upload into Replit, or you can put the link to like a link address to an image. Whenever you like copy an image off of Google, you can like right click, and then when it says copy link address, you can just copy that and you just paste it in here. And then the alternative text, that's an attribute. It's optional, but basically it's just alt text that pops up if an image doesn't load. But you need to consider accessibility. So keep in mind when people are like visually impaired and need to use screen readers, they definitely want to have a brief description if there's an image. And lastly, we do have style. That's also optional, an optional attribute. You can set the width and the height in pixels. There is no closing tag, as you might have noticed. But why? It's basically like inline, and I guess it's just not necessary. It's pretty much obvious there's like an image. It's just one of those cases where it just is what it is. There are other elements that also don't have closing tags, like the break element. Now that we have gone over the HTML stuff, it's your turn to try it out. So we're gonna take around 5 minutes to recreate this web page right here from this image. I will upload the file that you need in the workshop channel. And by the way, you can just easily like upload it by like downloading it and then dragging it into Replit to upload it, and then you just put the file name. So if you didn't finish, that's okay. I'll be going over it really shortly, but I have also dropped the link to it in the workshop channel. Here's the answer. So it was kind of like playing around to find out like which header to use, but like if you need to use a header, then like that's good. So we can see that this is an h2 header being used, closing tag, and then now we have the p tags, and then the em tags are also nested in it. So welcome to Cheryl's intro to web dev workshop. And then next we had bullet points. So it was an unordered list as shown with the UL tags with the li tags. And then after that, we had another header, so that was h4. I guess I was in hint already. And then after that, it's just text. And then this is how I inserted an image. So yeah, if you got that, then you're pretty much good. Actually, before I like get into it, it was kind of, like that code was kind of a bad example, because like it's like organized, but like not that organized, because it's definitely recommends to stay organized with code. So always have comments. So if you do have like some coding experience, which probably you guys already have, you probably know what comments are about, but it's best practice just in case if anyone wants to see your code and understand it, or just notes for yourself in case if you forget. So we have two types of comments. They're for either HTML or CSS. So as expected, this is for HTML. I think you can span it across multiple lines of code. Yeah, and this is CSS. You've probably seen it if you've like done like Java or something, but this one I know spans multiple lines. So moving on, we are getting into cascading style sheets. So what is it? Well, obviously it like relates to HTML, but CSS is just instructions on how to display the HTML elements to be more prettier. So as you can see, we have a selector in this diagram. Basically, you're just linking the HTML element to, the style part. And then in these, there are two declarations, this one here, and this one here. And then what makes up a declaration is a property with a corresponding value. So yes, you actually do need semicolons, but not for the last statement. If this is the last statement, so you don't need a semicolon there. But it's best practice to like always have semicolons after the property. So I've actually tested it, and like it doesn't go through if you forget the semicolons. So always have semicolons in CSS, which is a little hard in Replit because it's a lot harder to find bugs. So using this context, what do you think this example will display? Well, obviously we have the h1 for header, or the h1 header, and then it will set declare to blue, and the font size will be 12 pixels. So I did want to point out that there's a link tag, and basically it just links the HTML to the CSS. So as you can see here, we have our default files, and then yeah, it just basically links the HTML file to the style sheet, well, the CSS file. And then the JavaScript at the bottom is also defined, but not getting to that. So there's actually so much to uncover with CSS, and like even with HTML layer 2, but given the time restraints, I'll only cover a few basics, so I'm a little bit sad about that, but it's okay. So most importantly, we have text. So you can obviously change the color of it, and there's lots of options doing this. Personally, I like using hex codes because I know what the colors I want, so I put it there. But you can also use preset colors that CSS has, which is interesting because some of them do have interesting names. But if you try typing like a color, some options might pop up. Otherwise, you can just do blue, purple, yellow. They probably have it. Um, I will link a resource later with all the colors if you want to see it. And you can also use RGB and lots of other um, formats. And you don't need quotations for this. Um, I don't know if that was obvious, but in HTML or CSS, you don't really need quotation marks, but only like for the attributes in HTML. Anyway, text decoration is like customizing like line decoration, so like an overline or an underline or strike through. And then you can even customize like the color, the style, and the thickness, which is all optional. Style meaning like solid, double dashed, etc. And the thickness, I guess, CSS actually supports pixels, percentages, etc. EM is a lot better. It's like some measurement, but a lot of developers use this because it's easily scalable. So that's something to keep in mind if you like, I don't know, want to like have your website like on your phone, then like you can easily like scale that. So yes, and then we also have font. So you can customize the font family, the font style, the font weight, font size. So the style is just basically like italic, oblique, or normal. So that's already preset. And then obviously font weight and font size are already self-explanatory, but font family, I guess it's just like kind of like I guess like a type of like font, I guess. So like serif, sans serif, monospace, cursive, and fantasy. CSS does have preset fonts, but I can also link a resource to see what fonts they have. But that's pretty simple, right? So actually, you can use Google Fonts into your website. I don't know if I have time to go over it, but it's not super hard once you get it. They provide you the code, and you just copy and paste it wherever they tell you to. And that's how you can get Google Fonts. So let's take a look at an example. I pretty much use everything I talked about so far, but I mean, what's going to happen? Well, we have the p tag, and it's basically all paragraph elements. They're going to have the Arial font, italicized, bold, size 16 pixels, and then Rebecca purple as the color. So this is what it looks like being applied. So, yep. And with borders, you never know when you might use them. So here are some of the properties. Again, the style, the color, the width, and you can even adjust the radius, which might be nice. So you can just do just that without all of that. So I don't know. In web development, I feel like there's like so many options, especially in CSS, to like do it a shorthand way or a longhand way of like, property wise. I guess like it will like work either way, but it's up to you in the scenario. I've had to just do borders like this if I know what I want. So in this example, the UL element, so unordered list, will have a border that's 3 pixels thick, solid, and blue. And as you can see, this is just applied around this container, like the holder, not the actual list items. So sometimes CSS is just self-explanatory. So, okay, we don't have 10 minutes, so I would just shorten it to like 5 minutes, I guess. So now that you know the basics, try to spice up the website a little because it's boring so far. You can also change the background color, but maybe you can guess what it is, background dash color. And then I will also link a few resources if you want to get into that, but we will be taking 5 minutes. So I hope you got to try out some CSS so far. So meanwhile, moving on, I'm gonna link some simple stuff I made. So feel free to like fork them in your own time. but you can when you fork it, you have your own copy of the code, so you can just like look into it, and you can like modify it however you want, and play around so you can see like how I incorporated HTML and CSS into these websites, because I feel like it's a good way to learn and see how it all works. These are just very basic, but I feel like that one I made like a very long time ago, but I actually did a lot of like CSS stuff with it. So time is like basically almost up. So before we do close out, I have so many resources on here that if you want to keep looking into web dev, then you definitely should. Um, I am vouching over for w3schools.com if you haven't heard of it. They offer like it doesn't have to be HTML or CSS, but they also have like stuff for like other languages as well. I will send a whole list in the chat later. Um, but like most of these are just like CSS games that I saved. They're for like layout. I wish we got to cover it today. But it's more complex. It's like with like padding and like margins and that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of fun games you can do to learn. Um, I personally love Flexbox. Um, and yeah, and then there are like, um, I think I linked like a few stuff to like learn web dev for free. I'm not sure if like any of it like actually like are like useful, but I will link them just in case. So I hope any of these help you a little. So with that, the workshop is basically over. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited that you guys came, and I hope you learned something new. If you didn't know anything about web dev, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We haven't really launched yet, but we are in the process very soon. So this was such a great way to like have this workshop and like meet everyone. So I'm so grateful that I might have been able to spark some web development in you. So let me know questions. If not, I guess you can leave, I guess. And if not, have a great day and good luck on your hackathon.